Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Devil May Cry Season 1, Episode 2. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So basically, we open up with kind of this special, Darkcom, the special organization. It's heavy hitters. It's kind of elite team are watching as like a group of mercenaries are gathered up because the vice president has hired them to be like the hammer, whereas like his squad are like the scalpel. But did he need? Well, I guess Buzzsaw would probably be a better comparison. Buzzsaw versus a scalpel, but needs these hunters to go, these mercenaries to go after Dante. It's like probably could approach him, but I guess they don't like, despite him being a demon hunter and stuff like that. It's like, well, we saw how they handled other stuff last episode when they were gathering up devil hunters. They just like straight up kidnapped them. So they're not handling this with the most like delicate of hands. They're kind of going in, hardcore from the start. So it's like, yeah, at least they're not like, hey, let's just steal the amulet. The point is to bring in the amulet and Dante, because the question is, the biggest question a lot of people have is, despite the necklace being as important it is, how is it that Dante's just walking around with it as a necklace? Like something that this is literally one of three pieces that opens the gates of hell, So either way, a lot of the crowd kind of makes jokes because they see like, oh, we're supposed to go after this guy's really that dangerous. Except the guy in the back is like, yeah, I actually worked with Dante. Guy is crazy skilled. The fact is you're all dead if you go up against him. No amount of money is worth it. And they're like, 500 grand. He's like, all right, I'm in for him. I was like, all right, cool. So the point is to capture Dante and the amulet. Then you have Mary, which I actually completely forgot that was Lady's name. It doesn't come up that often, her name being Mary. I feel like the last time, like it comes up like near the end of the game. Like the villain, if you're unfamiliar with Devil May Cry 3, says her name. What is essentially kind of the main villain of Devil May Cry 3. But I don't remember if they've ever said her name like in 4 or 5 either. But either way, that's also really quickly because I'm bringing up 4. I saw like a wallpaper, a picture for like this, a poster for this show, and it showcased a demon that's from Devil May Cry 4. It's the demon that you fight in the woods, the plant lady demon. That one. So I was like, oh, so they really are. Once again, this is it's its own continuity. You're pulling from the games, but you're kind of telling your story while also still being true to what makes Devil May Cry Devil May Cry. So that once again, that was just my biggest question, especially because of Lady's introduction and specifically the position her and Dante are like how what she's the lieutenant of this organization. Well, not lieutenant of the organization, but the lieutenant of like this little squad that's put together. But either way, also them going into like demons disguising themselves. She's like, yeah, they can't quite get your transformation right. Limbs are a little long. Certain features don't match up, and it's something in the eyes where they have no soul. But it seems like the go-to sign is like, right, you rip off their shirt and their chest. Like, they can't hide that. That's a telltale sign in its own right. And they've got anti-demon bullets. So, like, interesting. Because I don't think that was a thing at all. It's just like, Lady or Mary killing demons, it was just like regular weapons. And yeah, they're harder to kill. Because I think Ebony Ivory aren't like anything special. I think they are. They're special customized guns, but I don't think their bullets are special. But once again, that could be a canon thing that I just don't know off the top of my head. So it's like regular bullets it's just going to take a lot. Like, it's just hard for a regular human to kill them unless you're highly trained. It's also interesting too because from the games, Mary doesn't have she's weaponed out, sure. And I'm curious if they're going to give her signature weapon, which is like a giant grenade launcher, but it's also like a giant bayonet / grenade launcher. So I'm curious, are they going to or rocket launcher might be the right word, whatever the case may be. I'm curious to see if they're going to give that to her maybe by the end of this season or not. But my point is she doesn't have high-tech suit or whatever. She just has weapons. So the fact is her and her squad have got high-tech suits and weapons and tech and stuff like that. It's interesting because this isn't just leaning into the fantastical elements of the Devil May Cry games. Like I said, they're leaning into science fictional elements as well, which I think is fascinating. But yeah, it ends up killing that one demon. I also love the vice president just standing there. They're like, wow, you didn't even bat an eye. He was like, yeah, I knew I was in good hands. They also bring in, what's his name, Anders, the guy that survived the White Rabbit attack last episode, which, once again, I'm super suspicious of. Like, yeah, he was just in a hospital, he wants to prove himself, but the vice president, once again, he acts like a crusader where he's like, this is a holy mission. The fact of the matter is, like, he was chosen by God because he survived. I was like, that's so interesting. To be fair, we have met a religious cult in this franchise before, so it might not necessarily mean anything. He could be just very religious and believe in a higher calling and stuff like that. Doesn't mean he's like a zealot or cult leader type of, who knows, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But either way, putting all that aside, they bring in Enzo to kind of be the one to kind of distract Dante while all the teams kind of strike. And I love that he pulls the gun on Enzo and is like, yo, buddy, I know you set me up with a deal that led to me fighting a shape-shifting demon. And he's like, whoa, come on, buddy. I'm sorry, buddy. It's all good. It's all great. You know, and it's just like, please, like, I didn't know things were going to be that way. I was kind of forced to take the job by this giant white rabbit. And Dante's like, I bet. I see what it is. And it's just like, yeah, I won't betray you ever again. It's like, but yet, isn't there multiple teams coming to strike me? He's like, okay, I'm not going to betray you after this. Because, come on, Dante, my hands were forced in this situation. They forced me. It's like, I appreciate you being the weasel that you are, Enzo. But yeah, all the teams proceed to strike. And I love him, like, tying up Enzo and putting him in. It also kind of once again, making all the references. It reminds me of DMC, Devil May Cry. A scene that kind of, not pissed off people, was just kind of like, oh, that's disrespectful. It's the scene where, like, the, white wig falls on top of him and he's just like, yeah, not in a million years type of thing, right? So, it kind of gives me that same energy a little bit. Also, there was a guy that was kind of the scam artist in the first episode who had white hair too, and I don't know if that was supposed to be like a wink and nod to that as well. I'm probably overthinking it, but once again, Dante doing Dante things. I love it, using the pool cubes and just like hitting all of them and having them fly towards everyone. I was like, oh, that's so good. And then the shots going off and he's going full trickster style throughout the whole sequence where he's moving so fast, practically teleporting. I love it. Really quickly, if you've never played the Devil May Cry games, you know, just in case anyone's coming across this, it's a mechanic they introduced in Devil May Cry 3 and they used it. It's been a part of Dante's fighting style going forward, was that basically he has 4 different styles. Like, I think it's the Swordmaster style. I don't think it's Gunmaster. It might be just like the Gunner style, the Trickster style, and the Royal Guard. Those are like the 4 different fighting styles that come with their own unique way and abilities that are unique to them. So, but that's his Trickster technique is practically about teleportation and just fast acrobatic movements and stuff like that. So, and I love that moment where they're shooting and he's on the other side with them shooting, like, who are we shooting at? I was like, I love stuff like that. That's so good. And proceeding to try and take everyone down without hurting them. And I love that it got to like, and even Enzo was like, wow, you took them down without hurting him. He's like, yeah, that was kind of a challenge. You know, up to this point, he was just using his hands and feet. He was strapped with his guns, but he wasn't really obviously using them like that. He picks up Rebellion, puts it on his back. And then obviously that last guy, not the last guy, but the guy who, well, 2 different things. The guy who was trying to be like, hey, Dante, do you remember me? He was like, yeah, this feet tall, looking like that. Hey, I think he said his name was like Aaron or something like that. He's like, hey, how's the kids? He's like, yeah, one of them's going to college and stuff like that. He's like, do you mind handing that over? We can turn it in together, split the money 50-50. But Dante's like, nah, sorry, buddy. And he's like, oh, had to give it a shot, and tries to sucker punch Dante. Dante grabs his fist and punches him. So love how that got dealt with. And then also the other guy who came through the wall, like Dante's taking everyone down except for the last guy who shoots him through the chest, well, more stomach area, but still, and Dante ends up being perfectly fine because it healed. And he's like, don't worry about it, I heal really fast. Which, this is where we kind of get into this thing of how much people know versus how much people don't know. As the demon told Dante last episode, you don't even know like the truth of who you are. So when the conversation comes up about him being part demon, he's like, no way. It's like, then how do you explain what you are? I mean, he says it himself. He's like, yeah, I'm like a superhero. And he's like, no, I would never call myself a superhero. But yeah, even that squad was like, yo, like even they're justified, like, oh, is he some super soldier? Was he enhanced like by experiments or something? But Mary is immediately like, nah, he's definitely got to be something else. And she, continues the conversation about what happened to Sparta, and him turning against Mundus and his own kind. And she's kind of like, yeah, it's the least he could do. Because I'm like, we have no idea like if Sparta ever killed any humans and stuff like that. Because obviously there's a lot to this story that people don't know. Obviously the whole like, well, Sparta fell in love with a human. That's what kind of changed him. And obviously we get a little time with Dante's mom as she made him promise to look after that jewel. Oh yeah, the amulet. Sorry, but also on that subject, I knew there was something else I wanted to talk about. I got clarification from last episode because of this episode. I thought was neat, where it's like I was like, oh, how would you immediately recognize your brother? It's like, well, these are certain features that he would have, and this is what he'd look like if he was a little older. And I think it's interesting because Dante's like, yeah, but like my brother died when he was a kid, but like even if he was a little old, even being older, like him as an adult, he wouldn't necessarily look like that, which is funny considering like, well, that's kind of taking from Virgil's design from one of the other games. So it just felt like that was kind of like, I mean, maybe there's certain aspects of it that were off as they talk about this episode, like demons can't quite get the human stuff fully right. But I thought that was such an interesting thing where I was like, okay, so that's Dante's justification of like, yeah, my brother did die, well, in his belief, when they were younger. So it's like, oh, I know what you look like as an adult. I could guess what you look like as an adult. Obviously they also, well, I was about to say because they are twins. So like, because yeah, they did establish that. And I mean, I already knew they were twins, but I couldn't remember if they established that in this. It was like, yeah, they referenced it, Virgil being his twin brother. But anyway, so yeah, I just wanted to include that because I was like, oh yeah, that kind of gives answers to like, I was like, wait, like your memories of your brother dying when he was a kid, but like you haven't run into your brother like since. And so that's the whole thing. Like I said, I was kind of dancing around spoilers, but I already kind of talked about it in episode 1. I still believe the White Rabbit is actually Virgil. I think so, but we'll see. It might be someone else, but either way. Getting back to the point I was making was like going back to the Sparta of it all, him basically sealing himself into the demon or in hell with all the other demons and stuff. And she's like, oh, it's the least he can do and stuff. But I was actually trying to remember. I was like, I actually don't remember what happened to Sparta in the OG continuity. Like in just like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Like I don't remember what that happened. I remember in the DMC Devil May Cry reboot, like they were like Mundus had him sealed away, but I don't remember in the original timeline or the original canon whether they ever answered what happened to Sparta. Because I think in my head I assumed he was dead, but I think maybe he's still in the same boat of like, yeah, he was sealed away somewhere. I don't remember because that never really got answered to my recollection, but maybe it did. I'm, like I said, just not remembering. Either way, Lady and Dante duke it out. Obviously, she just easily snatches away the amulet and bounces. And obviously, Lady's got deep hatred for demons. So, regardless of Dante's constitution, him not even knowing like what the amulet's all about, even figuring out like, oh, you're a half demon, you're a hybrid. Even taking that into account, her unwillingness to kind of even be like, okay, maybe you're not that bad, because at the end of the day, it's like you're demon scum. To be fair, Dante's got the same perspective. That's why he hates her, even being like, oh, do you not know what you are? You're part demon. He's like, you know. He's like, I kill demons and hate demons. She's like, yeah, but demons kill other demons too. Sparta did as well. So, so it's not out of that realm of possibility. I'm sure other demons kill each other just for supremacy purposes, just to be like, oh, I'm stronger, I'm tougher, I'm above you type of situation. So I thought that was fascinating. My biggest question too was going to be like, how are those anti-demon bullets going to affect Dante, considering he's not a full demon? So they'd affect him, but it kind of a recent thing came up, and I don't know if this is a thing from the comics, going a little pivoting nerd wise, but Superman, like his children are affected by kryptonite differently than him because they're only half Kryptonian. They're half human, so kryptonite affects them differently. I know that's something in the Superman and Lois TV show. I don't know if that's something that's from the comics or not, too. So, I'm curious if that's kind of, and it seems like that is the principle. I mean, because Dante like caught one of the bullets and it exploded, but it was in his shoulder, wasn't in his head or his chest. So it's a little different, which I even love. Like Mary's like, oh, I know what you really are, and ripped off his shirt. He's like, yes, ripped and irresistible, but you can't just go around ripping a dude's shirt, because that scene was in the trailer. But that's when she was like, right, you're a hybrid. But that didn't change anything. She's still disgusted by him. Getting away from it. I even love her tricking him with the whole, like, he goes for the amulet, but it turns out it was like tech that made a grenade look like that. So you're like, that's pretty handy. Like I said, really leaning into like the science fiction of it all. And then Dante sadly getting himself captured because he's a little, well, he's hot-headed and he'll just kind of fall right into a trap like that. Wouldn't be the first time. Got electrocuted and locked up in the truck, and it's just like, well, shit, here we go. So, fascinating circumstances Dante finds himself in by the end of this episode. I'm curious to see where all this ends up taking us going forward now that Darkcom has their hands on Dante. Maybe they'll fill him in. Because, once again, they're in the dark, too, about everything. He did explain to Lady, it's like, yo, I got this from my mom, and now, well, that doesn't mean anything, because it's like, the question will be like, well, did his mom, Ava, know the truth about Sparta? And it's like, well, obviously she did. She's telling Dante to keep this safe. So yeah, there's a lot of questions on that front. It's going to be interesting to see how the show tackles it and how like Darkcom handles Dante, their approach to him. I'm sure they're going to come at it with a heavy hand rather than kind of with the delicate approach. Because I'm sure in Dante's case, he wouldn't respond to the delicate touch. You kind of have to go with the heavy hand, but it's like, well, that's just going to make Dante be the smart ass that he is and respond in kind. So it's just, like I said, just going to be interesting to see how that all plays out in the next episode. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.